You know what? Let's talk about it. Since you're here, well, before you go to bed, let's talk about Israel, because I think it's only fair, since you're sticking around.
Yes.
Right, look, let's get the main talking point out of the way in regards to its huge public points of 297.
Rigged.
I'm not saying rigged, but it was extremely... well, look, there was a lot of advertising, which there was also the case for last year, regarding Israel in the Eurovision Song Contest, and it wasn't even a case of, like, the public voting for it because of the song. It's a nice enough song, but probably low to mid table. Worthy of a place in the final, if you ask me. On song alone, worthy of a place in the final, if you ask me. But I think it was just been low to mid.
And obviously, due to the current situation, I didn't think they should be participating.
I just think the fact that they are trying to take advantage of that. I'm not so fussed about the artists or the delegation in question. Okay, I know there was issues with the delegation last year, but at least they were a bit more respectful this year. I get everybody was trying to be respectful, but at least they were calm. The main issue I have is the extensive of unfair advertising that Israel were doing to their song.
And also the 20 votes thing.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I think you should be able to have 20 votes, but you shouldn't be able to give it all to the same country.
Yeah, I agree. There needs to be a little bit of a stamp out now, and of course there's a lot of talk about that now in the fact that there's going to be discussion as to whether it's going to be reduced or... here's the thing, EBU are fully aware now, and the new Director General, something Green,
yes.
I'm going to call him Mr. Green, I've forgotten his first name, but Mr. Green, he's from Britain as well, so he gets the whole vibe of it all. He understands that there is diaspora. The language was a little bit odd with his statement, but he understood it. Yeah, exactly. It was exactly like Hurricane... Martin Green, that's it.
Yeah.
It's exactly like Hurricane last year with the whole thing. But as I say, it's nothing to do with the song with all of these points coming in, with all of these votes. It's a case of good advertising. For crying out loud, she was advertised on Times Square, for crying out loud.
Maybe you should be banned from advertising.
There needs to be a certain limit in terms of advertising.
Yeah, none at all.
Well, I think that's a bit ridiculous.
I think you should only be able to promote yourself at the pre-parties and that's it.
The old boy from Germany would be out of a job if Israel got chucked out. That is true. That is a very unusual thing to pop out around. I will mention this. Actually, where is it?
Germany threatened to pull out.
They did.
Yeah.
Let me get the tagline from Thema Boob. Where are you? Never mind about that. Oh, that's something else. I must have missed it because I'm an idiot. Slovenia, that Martin Oster. Oh, we'll mention Martin Osterdahl in a minute. I did have it here, but either way, yeah. For some reason, the Dutch broadcaster, and it's been reported this as well. The Dutch broadcaster did say they would pull out if Israel also pulled out. So now you've got the situation whereby the Spanish broadcaster RTVE want to put or basically say to them, if Israel do continue, they'll pull out. So now the EBU is stuck in a bit of a middle here, because you've got two big five countries threatening on either side. And at least you forget, Germany, you can't get rid of them at all, because aside from us, they're the biggest in terms of the viewing figures.
Yes.
Which is oof.
So how do we get around this?
I do not know, other than... Well, here's the thing. I do think with the big five now, I won't say scrap it entirely, keep the financial contributions, but put them in the semi-final. I think we do need to participate in the semi-finals.
Well, we'd never qualify.
But there's the thing, give them an incentive to do as well as they possibly can, because, for example, give them the opportunity to pick their own running spot. Thank you very much for another donation. Wow, thank you. I don't think it was riddled because of advertising, because it succeeded only in Western Europe. It's more like the right-wing European vote. The question is, would it have gone down slowly like Ukraine? Well, here's the thing. With its votes, let's go back to that. Because... obviously it got 12 maximum scores from Azerbaijan. Make that what you will. Azerbaijan are kind of trying to do their own thing. Western Europe, yeah. Western Europe. Okay, Cyprus, give or take. Western Europe, rest of the world, who cares? Scandinavia, Western Europe, Scandinavia, Western Europe, Australia, whatever. It got a little bit from Eastern Europe. There's a little bit of Eastern European love there from Albania, but Scandinavia, Europe, Scandinavia, Eastern Europe there, and Western Europe. Well, here's the thing. There's not a lot of Eastern European countries now in the contest anyway, but you are right in saying that a lot of the Eastern European countries weren't going to go for it, and there was a lot of targetedness in Western Europe. I get that, but at the same time, the fact that people still fell for the adverts is the issue. There was a lot of favourability in regards to Israel's political situation.
And there's 20 voting with different cards.
We never mind. Yeah, but that's by the by. That needs to be fixed for sure. But here's the thing: there is a lot of people in Western Europe that are in regards to the situation, you're either pro-Palestine or you're pro-Israel. And there is a surprising amount of people.
Either way, I just don't like the deaths of children. That's the bit that.
Unfortunately, Israel's government. At least you forget this is Israel's government doing its thing. This has nothing to do with the public. A lot of the public are actually kind of peed off.
Though. That's the thing. It's like showing favouritism to one country over the other. That's the bit I don't like.
I won't say it's favouritism. It's because at the end of the day, whatever way you look at it, you are right in saying that Israel's situation is different to Russia because Israel didn't do it first. They were targeted by Hamas on the October 7th, but for sure it will be disastrous if Israel will win. Absolutely.
Yeah, because if they won, you wouldn't be able to host it there. There'd be no question, and no one would want to host it on their behalf.
No, definitely not.
Because you'd get a bad reputation.
No, absolutely. But here's the thing: as already mentioned, this is a different situation, whatever way you look at it, because they weren't the ones being the aggressors; they were aggressed first. Unfortunately, their government are being super duper aggressive politically, and that's not gone down well in some circles.
Like what I saw on the news the other night broke my heart. There was a doctor that she lost 9 of her 10 children in a bombing. It was just heartbreaking to see.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was another thing that I saw regarding this, but I've completely forgotten what it was. I completely forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, with Israel, actually, this is what I've been meaning to try and say. I think even if you are in a political situation with war, whether you're the aggressor or being aggressed, so I'm saying this to Ukraine, and I hate to say this as well because we love Ukraine, Slava Ukraini, hope everything goes well for you, we really do mean that, but in terms of the fairness of it all, which we will get to Ukraine later, I just think it's fair for any country that are involved in any type of war, whether being the aggressor or being aggressed, shouldn't participate in these competitions.
No,
in these types of competitions.
It really manipulates the vote.
It does.
And it's a song contest. We don't want all this. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. Let's mention Ukraine now because we're on them.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. They're still getting.
This is probably one of their worst ever entries.
I wasn't keen on the song. Here's the thing. A lot of people weren't keen on the song. In the audience poll and press polls, they were outside the top 10 on both for the semi-finals, and they were last in the final.
And they won their first semi-final.
And they won their first semi-final. Let me get to the semi-final actually, in terms of where they were. I think they were the first semi-final, weren't they? Yeah, they won their first semi-final by getting 4 12s, couple of 10s, just high points across the board for most of it, and that's simply because of the diaspora.
Yeah,
it's the unfortunate thing. Ukrainians did want this song to be their representative because it did win the public vote in the national final. So as a result, Ukrainians who have been displaced all over Europe, which there is a lot of, not just in the fact that they're in Scandinavia or in Poland or
most of them came to the UK.
A good chunk came to the UK, to Germany, to France, etc. They've all been misplaced. So unsurprisingly, Spaniards that are from those countries are getting 12. Unsurprisingly, Poland,
obviously, because it was a neighbouring country, they reached out to them.
And Cyprus as well. You know what's even more surprising? They're not that displaced in Portugal. There's not a lot of them in Portugal, but they've still got 12. Same with the rest of the world. Same for Albania. Same for a lot of these countries. Okay, they're a little bit more fairer than others. But they're still... I just think Ukraine are taking these votes away.
Who did the rest of the world give 12 to then in that semi-final?
Albania. which is not a huge surprise. But back to Ukraine. The question is, what will be the smartest way to approach this? This is what the conversation is going to be like in June. That there is going to be a meeting with the public, well, some public broadcasters, which there was quite a few of. Slovenia, Spain, Belgium, Iceland, Portugal, Ireland, Netherlands and Finland are going to have a meeting, well, mostly about the television system, but about other things in place in June.
Right, well, for instance, from
no, in
our
July,
point of
excuse
view,
me.
we want juries back in the semis.
Yeah.
That's one thing that really needs to happen.
I totally agree.
Right, and that 20 votes thing needs to be changed.
Yeah.
It needs to go to say you can have 20 votes, fine, but you can't give them all to the same country.
Or just do maximum 5 votes each, because it used to be 5 votes anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, 5 votes. Yeah, Joe did exactly the same thing as you.
Yeah.
Joe said exactly the same thing as you. By the way, thank you for the couple of donations, Shy. I love you. And as far as your government is concerned, I don't know what to say about your government, but for crying out loud, well, here's the thing. Also, with the government in question, the Prime Minister actually loves the contest.
Yes.
He wants Israel to be in it every single year.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous considering the political situation and the fact that they're trying to literally use it as soft power motions. I'm sorry, but they are.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, Israel should not be in the competition. Thank you, Shai, for saying you hate your government.
Well, at least you can say one thing. At least you're one of those Israelis that actually understands the other side.
Nah.
And I thank you for that.
See, this is what I was saying. Like, it's the government's issue. It's nothing to do with the public.
But I mean, it's like some of the Israeli people think because you're against what that government's doing, you're anti-Semitic.
Yeah, but that's the right-wingers for you.
Yeah, but
at the end of the day, it's under a right-wing government.
You could be anti-genocide and anti-Semitic. Yeah, you could be anti sort of. No, I'm not trying to.
No, I know what you mean.
Being anti-Semitic and being anti, war, are two completely different things.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Just trying to dig yourself a hole there is all I'm going to say. I'm joking.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's one thing, and I'm glad that you can see it from both sides, and I think that's great to see.
There is a lot of Israelis out there that are just not happy with the government. Why would you vote a government in if they're going to just do this?
Yeah, no, it's like...
voting for Donald Trump.
Or in other cases, Farrell.
Oh, yeah, well. But we've got 4 more years in our case, so it's all right. Yes, of course, there are lots. Not the majority, but there are a lot. Exactly. It's just those on the right-wing voters out there who were just right-wing for the sake of argument still backing on the government. You're always going to get that.